In Beijing and Shanghai, there are tens of thousands of so-called leftover women. In Chinese society, this term refers to women who are over 27 years old and still unmarried. In the past, there were only men who couldn't find a wife. There were no women who couldn't get married. As long as you were a woman, even if you were considered unattractive, you could still get married. But now the situation has reversed, both in rural areas and in cities. Women with good conditions are increasingly the ones who can't get married. Reaching the age of 30 without getting married has already become a completely normal phenomenon.
So-called older leftover women have already become an undeniable reality in the dating market. They may have value on paper, but no real demand. In the past, many women said there were 30 million more women than men, but in reality the number of single women is now approaching 100 million.
Once upon a time, we lived in a society where women had many advantages. Men would kneel down to a woman and her to marry her. Ask her to marry him. Men would bring flowers at a chance of love with a woman. However, the tables have turned. It is women who cannot find a man to save their life. Women around the world are not paying for their arrogance and delusional demands. Boy, how the times have changed. Guys, what is up? It's your boy Andy Matrix. I'm back with another video. I'm here on Angry Guys YouTube channel talking about, relationships and societal issues, really. Societal issues. Right? Guys, if you haven't heard of me, Andy Matrix, make sure to follow me on Andy Matrix Gaming. I talk about anime, gaming, Japanese culture, all that good stuff. Click the link in the description. Go ahead and give me a follow. And don't forget to follow Angry Guy on Rumble because he's got content over there that's not allowed on YouTube. Right? So there's videos that you're not gonna see on YouTube that are being uploaded to Rumble. So if you wanna check those things out, go ahead and give Angry Guy a follow on Rumble. Click the link in the description. And guys, the economy is in absolute shambles. Okay, we are losing so many jobs. There's even companies that are leaving. Like Angry Guy said, there's the banks are going to collapse eventually. But right now, a lot of people are out of work, and they cannot find another job. The economy is really bad, and a lot of people are going to have to find ways to make money. Start their own gig, their own side business to generate an income. That's why Angry Guy created the Content Creator Academy, where you can learn how to build an audience online on the internet, where you can learn how to how to create a digital product so you can start generating an income, right? So click the link in the description. Go ahead and check that out. And now let's get on with the show. All right, dude. So today we're gonna be reacting to a channel called Asian Dilemma, which is similar to China Uncensored or something like that. There's been a lot of YouTube channels based on China, on Chinese news, Chinese society, in issues in China, and we've seen that they have similar issues to what we have here in the West. Well, maybe not to the same extent, right? Or maybe not to the same level, but similar. So the title of this video is Highly Desired, Now Desperate, Successful Woman Offered 300,000 yuan. Still no man wants them, right? So basically what they're saying is that women are paying men to date them, to marry them, and they still won't do it. Like the dudes are not even taking the money. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy to me, bro. But anyways, let's go ahead and see what they gotta say. Here we go.
In Beijing and Shanghai, there are tens of thousands of so-called leftover women. In Chinese society, this term refers to women who are over 27 years old and still unmarried. In the past, there were only men who couldn't find a wife. There were no women who couldn't get married. As long as you were a woman, even if you were considered unattractive, you could still get married. But now the situation has reversed, both in rural areas and in cities. Women with good conditions are increasingly the ones who can't get married. Reaching the age of 30 without getting married has already become a completely normal phenomenon.
So-called older leftover women have already become an undeniable reality in the dating market. They may have value on paper, but no real demand. In the past, many women said there were 30 million more women than men, but in reality the number of single women is now approaching 100 million. Some of these older single women, even those who are divorced and looking to remarry, come to me demanding that a man must have a house, a car, and at least 1 million in savings, without giving any consideration to their own conditions.
So once again, they keep making all these demands. The man has to have a house. He's got to have a car. He's got to have $1 million. He's got to have a six pack. He's got to have all these things, never considering that they should bring something as well. Um, and again, this is a problem that mainly happens in countries that are, advanced. Like, China is now a high-tech advanced country. America, yes, but I mean, America has always been a superpower for the longest time. I don't see this so much with Japanese girls. I don't, I don't see this so much with Japanese girls, really. I don't see this very much with Korean women, right? I don't see this with Korean women that much, but I do see this happening with like in England, right? Just first world countries. So until that this attitude of he's gotta be an absolute total Prince Chad, and I don't have to do anything in return, right? I don't have to do anything in return. As long as this attitude continues, well, they're going, the number of single women is going to continue to grow and grow and grow, and they're not going to change until they're a 50-year-old lady that nobody wants, right? And you know how hard it is for women to get pregnant when they're 50? When they're 50 years old, you know how hard it is? There's a reason why dudes look for, young women in their 20s, early 20s, late 20s, because that's the best age for a woman to get pregnant. After that, it just gets harder and harder.
There are also women who simply treat wealthy men like ATMs. On the very first meeting, they demand expensive gifts, driving the man away on the spot. The idea that since 2014, these women have remained single because they were brainwashed is often summed up in short phrases. TV dramas are all built around the dominant CEO trope, constantly encouraging men to keep buying things for women. From the first milk tea of autumn to the 520 red envelopes, which are sent without hesitation. Men under 1.68 meters are labeled as defective, and men are ranked into classes like 3, 6, and 9. After this kind of brainwashing, these older leftover women develop a sense of superiority. If a man can't make money, then he's useless. If life doesn't go well, it's blamed on choosing the wrong man. In the end, all responsibility is pushed onto others. No wonder that nowadays men in Shenzhen are increasingly unwilling to look for a relationship.
So you heard what she said, right? Basically saying that that TV dramas and all these television programs, they brainwash women into thinking that they deserve a certain type of man, right? And that they don't have to do much in return. And this goes all the way back to the Bible, the Garden of Eden. Eve was fooled into eating from the tree when God told her not to, right? And the elites know this, right? The people at the top, you know what I'm talking about. The people at the top, the Charles Schwabs, the Bill Gates of the world. A lot of them actually know this. A lot of them know that if you can manipulate the woman first, then you'll be able to manipulate the men, right? Because what do men do? A lot of the things that men do is for the women. Because if a man could have sex with a woman on a cardboard box, he wouldn't buy a house. Okay, I learned that from Dave Chappelle, by the way. I learned that from Dave Chappelle. Right? So, yeah, it just goes to show you how easy you are to manipulate, and how easily they believe all these things. Right? They believe all these things because, like, I'm starting to wonder, like, don't they talk to their mother, their grandmother, right? Because in China, they're still family oriented. Don't they talk to their grandmother and ask them, hey, grandma, how do how do you find a husband, right? Don't they ask these questions, right? Don't they ask these questions? I mean, like, because I'm sure if they speak to like the older generation can give them a lot of wisdom. But I think similar to America, millennials and Gen Z, the newer generation, we kind of look down at the older generation, telling them that they're dumb, stupid, and that they're the old ways don't work anymore, right? And it comes with this liberal mindset that as we progress, we don't need like old traditional values anymore. But there's a reason why certain things are considered traditional, right? And it's because they work. It's because a lot of traditions, they work. You know, traditional gender roles, they work and they have maintained society for a long time. They work and they have, you know, and they have kept humanity running for a long time. So yeah, tradition is good.
In other words, most older leftover women know deep down that they have value but no market. Even the most naive person, after being tested a few times in the dating and marriage market, will roughly understand their own level. But what's the problem? For them, the best choice is not to lower the price and sell themselves cheaply, but to hold firmly to that price. As a result, older leftover women end up piling up in large numbers. I'm at the matchmaking corner of People's Park in Nanning right now. Just take a look.
Being 32 years old and unmarried is not about refusing to get married, it's simply about not being able to find anyone. Older leftover women have now entered a state of total cutthroat competition. They don't ask for a car, don't ask for a house, don't ask for a bride price, and some even offer a bride price themselves. 30 or 50,000 is no longer enough to even count. Some people are even offering 300,000 or 500,000. Even so, I truly can't find anyone. Maybe in this lifetime I'm destined to be alone.
Okay, so you know you've done something absolutely wrong when you're offering that much money to a man and you still can't. They're still rejecting you. Like I do. I mean, most guys. I mean, when you offer up some money, like a good or large amount of money, they'll consider like what they got to do to get it, right? But in this case, guys are being given money by these women, and it's like even then, right? Even then, they still don't want to, right? They still don't want to be with these women, and it's because they're absolutely horrible. They're absolutely horrible. It's like here in America, um, you know, why don't men want to approach anymore? Why don't men want to get married? And it's because they know they're gonna be dealing with an absolute narcissistic chick that's just gonna bring havoc upon their life, as make all these demands while getting nothing. And nobody wants to be in that situation. Nobody wants to be in a situation where they get absolutely nothing. You know, they give and give and give and give and give and get absolutely nothing. Nobody wants to be in that position. We are not God. God can continue to give and not expect anything back because God owns everything. God created everything. You know, that's the difference. But us humans, we are not like that. We are not God.
我不要彩礼，而且我还可以陪嫁20万。大龄剩女的通病吧。一定要结婚吗？我是一定要结婚的，96年的，车房都有，我都是体制内的。那他家庭很普通可以吗？找个普通家庭挺好的，因为我自己也是普通家庭，我自己也是有车也有房的，所以我不是很在乎男方要给予我太多的东西。我觉得人生真的是想买就好，想买胜万全。你好，小姐姐，请问
Hello, miss, may I ask, how much bride price would be required to marry you? Actually, it could also be no bride price at all, because I believe that whether a man truly loves you is not determined by the bride price, and the bride price is not the only standard for measuring a marriage. After all, I think marriage is not something done by one person alone, but something built together by two people.
就我想问一下，您觉得现在大龄剩男剩女越来越多是一个什么样的原因？
我觉得，因为一个人过得比两个人好的话，我宁愿一个人生活，因为一个人过得更精彩一点。两个人的话，要迁就对方的性格就很累，一个人更好一点。
我不要彩礼。
I don't want a bride price, and I don't mind living in a rented place. I think we're all from ordinary families. It's not like every household can easily afford 1 or 2 million. Besides, I'm looking for the person, not for the money. For me, the most important thing is that the two people are happy together.
男生如果暂时没有车没有房，你还会跟他在一起吗？这个我觉得是 OK 的。其实我觉得有房有车，like 对于我来说不是我要择偶的一个关键因素。对，165，然后是27。小姐姐喜欢直男还是渣男？直男吧，我喜欢真实的男生。小姐姐，您会喜欢什么类型的男孩子呀？我比较喜欢阳光点，然后寸头的男生。月薪5000可以和您谈恋爱吗？是可以的，对，可以的，就对经济没有要求，对，这没有要求。小姐姐娶你的话，需要多少彩礼呢？我觉得，我真的爱的话，我觉得其实doesn't matter，没有关系，对于我来说，可以不需要彩礼，对，可以不需要。对，哇，非常好啊。
Okay, so I'm actually very skeptical about that one. She says she has no financial requirement. I don't know. I'm very, very skeptical. And I think, when a girl tells you that she doesn't have any financial requirement, that's to me, it's not that it's a red flag. It's just I'm very skeptical because um, every girl has some type of financial requirement. Okay, some type of financial requirement. And usually girls that don't have a financial requirement, those types of girls, they're usually into men that are like thuggish, the thuggish type of dudes, the guys from the streets. And I'm including Chinese women in this because I know Chinese women usually tend to go for smarter men, right? And also I think that if she doesn't have a financial requirement, maybe she wants to be the one in charge in the relationship. At least that's what I think. That's my experience. Like if she doesn't want to depend on her man, she wants to be in charge. Like she's the money maker. She makes the rules, that type of thing. And I don't roll with that. But maybe you guys do.
Blogger Professor Peng stated that even when some men genuinely meet all of these requirements, they ultimately only want to find a young, pretty girl around 25 years old. Cheen, 32, went on a blind date. She deliberately put on a newly bought dress and sprayed perfume. The man she met was 34, held a postgraduate degree, and worked at a state-owned enterprise. He said that the moment he heard she was 32, he had actually already ruled her out. However, after seeing her in person, he said he was still fairly satisfied and mentioned that she was currently unemployed. He didn't seem to mind that. He said that not having a job was actually ideal, because she could devote all her energy to preparing for pregnancy and having children.
There's a reason why back in the days, they would tell, parents would tell their daughters to get married early, and it's because it was easier to have children at a young age. I said this before. So women that are in their 30s, for example, that Chinese lady, she was 32 years old, right? 32 years old. So at that age, it's much harder for women to have children. And men in their 30s, they don't tend to go for girls that are at their age. Men in their 30s will go after women that are in their 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s. You know, I'll give you an example. I'm 36 years old. I'm I guess I'm at the right age, the mid age of a millennial, right? I'm 36. And next year, well, 2026, I'm gonna be 37. So I'm getting closer to being 40 years old, right? Getting closer and closer to being 40 years old. And my current girlfriend, she's a Filipina. Okay, she's 27. Okay, she is 27 years old. And there's going to be a lot of competition, right? There's going to be a lot of competition for women in their 30s. And it's just going to get harder. So if you're a woman, you're in your 30s, don't look for a man that's 30 years old. Look for a guy that's like pushing 40, has more experience, been around longer. Go for a guy that's in his 40, that's like 40 years old. You have a better chance. You do. You have a better chance because the men at your age, they're looking for way younger women. This is the law of nature. This is the law of nature. This is how the creator, Yahweh, Yahuwah. This is how he created it. This is how he created the world. He created women to be in a certain way. He created men to be a certain way. This is how God created men. God created men to look for younger women that were more fertile. This is the undeniable truth that a lot of these chicks don't want to admit. Older women have to come to the realization and admit that younger women are hotter and better and more desirable, right? And I think something when you accept these truths is that you actually start to live more at peace. You actually start to live more at peace. So if a lot of these older women, if they would admit that, they will make better decisions accordingly instead of being delusional. And guys, not only are relationships absolutely horrible nowadays, relationships have become just basically a chore, has become very difficult. Mating has never been this hard and so annoying in history. Right? It has never been this way before. But what's happening now is the economy is in absolute shambles. The economy is in absolute shambles. Millions of people have gotten laid off. It's getting harder and harder to find a job nowadays. There's going to be a lot of competition to find just one job. and not a decent job either. Just even for like fast food, people are going to be fighting for these job positions. Artificial intelligence is coming in and taking jobs. It's same as robotics. A lot of people are going to end up homeless. There's already a lot of people living in their cars. Going back to live with their parents, living with 5, 10 roommates. You know, and this is the reality that we're currently living in America, and it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. The future is not looking really good, guys, and many people are going to have to find ways to generate an income, start their own businesses somehow. And this is why the Angry Guy created the Content Creator Academy. He's gonna teach you how to build an audience, right? How to build an audience, and how to create a digital product to start generating an income for yourself and say goodbye to the 9 to 5. So if you click the link in the description and you sign up today, you'll get a free guide. So go ahead and get started. Click the link in the description. Check out Angry Guy's Content Creator Academy, and let's go ahead and continue on with the video.
In the end, he added that because of her age, he was concerned about her fertility, and that if they were to be together, she would need to get pregnant first before he would agree to register the marriage. As expected, in this value-based transaction known as a blind date, everyone's primary goal is to protect their own capital. From the perspective of safeguarding one's own interests, the blogger felt that the man's proposal was deeply uncomfortable. After the blind date ended, Cheen went alone for a walk by the riverside. Later, she received a message from him asking when they would meet again. She didn't want to drag things out, so she directly declined.
Women who studied abroad shouldn't even come to blind dates. It's not that I don't want to do business with you, but the rich second-generation men you're looking for won't choose you as a wife. Yesterday, a woman born in the 1990s came in. To be honest, she really was very beautiful. I'm a lawyer, and it reminded me of a man born in 1988 who works at a state-owned enterprise here. I felt that, in many ways, the two were actually quite well matched, so I mentioned him to her. But before I even finished speaking, she told me that she had previously dated several men whose families were in business. Their family enterprises had annual revenues of several million. The message was clear: anyone below that family background didn't need to be introduced at all.
The blogger believes that for older single women, having previously dated a rich second-generation man is actually not a good thing. On the contrary, those experiences can end up hindering their future partner choices. That's because rich second-generation men tend to be more rebellious when they are young and often don't listen to their parents, especially when it comes to relationships. They only want someone pretty, but in the end, they still have to take the woman home to meet their parents. If the parents disapprove, the relationship is over, because these men are still financially dependent on their families and have no real decision-making power.
And this is another problem with the demands that they make when they're looking for like a rich guy, a guy with a lot of money, is that somebody that makes a lot of money, they're probably going to be very busy. If he's a freelancer, depending on what kind of business, if it's millions of dollars, they're probably going to be very busy managing the business, right? And they cannot, the woman cannot be complaining about, oh, well, he doesn't spend enough time with me, yada 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 yada. At the same time, that same dude is going to be chased by other women because he's got money. He's gonna have other women chasing him. So if you don't want to deal with that, then going after a rich dude is not the best option, right? And also, if you're looking for somebody that comes from a rich family, somebody that comes from a rich family, guess what? Okay, that doesn't mean that they're good at managing money. That just means that they come from a rich family, right? They come from a rich family, and that doesn't always mean that the money is theirs, right? They just rely on their family financially. Yeah, so there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of factors. That's why you can't just, people have to learn to look for somebody in their level. But nobody wants to date at their level anymore. Nobody wants to date at their level anymore. Everybody wants what they can have now more than ever. It used to be that you lived in, I don't know, you lived in freaking some town, a town in America of 100,000 people or something like that, a town in America, and you went to high school, right? You went to high school, and you dated the girls in your town, right? Or somebody that you went to high school with, right? Or if you didn't find your girl in high school, you find her in college, right? That's how it would be. You find her in college or at work. Usually, usually. But nowadays, it's like, you know, People want whatever they see on social media, which is not always attainable. They want what they see on social media, and social media is not always reality. You know what I mean?
In addition, rich second-generation men enjoy a high standard of living. They take their girlfriends traveling everywhere, checking in at popular destinations, eating well and staying in high-end places. After a woman has experienced a relationship like that, when she later tries to find a slightly more ordinary man, the psychological gap can be huge, nothing seems good enough anymore. And once the prime period for choosing a partner is missed, finding the right man becomes very difficult.
女孩子30岁的时候没有遇到那个心仪的他，要不要选择将就呢？
我觉得还是不要吧，
为什么呢？
因为我觉得就是如果你将就的，反正我是不喜欢将就。我现在也25岁了，然后我就觉得将就也没有什么必要啊。就是如果你遇到合适的喜欢，那就在一起；遇不到你非要去将就，你如果不喜欢这个人，你在一起也没有意义，也没有意义。
The blogger, who is a business owner, said that after everything is paid, only about 4,000 yuan are left, and there are still expenses for communication and transportation. Some men like to go out for late-night snacks, eat at street stalls, and drink with friends, and when you add it all up, there's hardly any money left. A man earning 6,000 yuan a month can support himself. But if it comes to getting married, then it becomes a bit difficult.
人生当中做过最后 What is the decision you regret the most in your life? At 32 years old, in order to end a 3-year long-distance relationship and get married as soon as possible, I quit my job in Shenzhen, where I was earning 30,000 a month, and returned to Changsha. At that time, my heart and mind were completely filled with expectations about love, never imagining that the ending of this story would go so badly off track. If it hadn't been for the day he went out and forgot his phone, I would never have known that, throughout the entire relationship, there had always been a third person involved.
This is why humanity, I would say, especially here in America, in the Western world, we're constantly being sold these liberal ideologies, right? We constantly have to be sold these liberal ideologies that men and women are the same. We have to come to reality and accept that men and women are different, and there is no such thing as gender equality, because genders, men and women have different roles. You see, a man can wait till he's 40 years old to get married and have children, and he'll be fine, right? He'll still be able to reproduce. But it's not the same for women. Their biology, it gets harder and harder, you know. And look, I'm 36. I'm 36. I have a girlfriend now, but I haven't gotten married. Okay, I haven't gotten married, and people ask me, "Oh, how come you don't have any kids? How come you don't have this? How come you don't have that?" Well, various reasons. First of all, I was poor. I was poor. Okay, I was poor. I've worked 2 jobs, and I was going up, I guess, the corporate ladder in the company I'm working at to make a decent amount of money that would have been enough in the 2000s or the 2010s, right? But not anymore with all this inflation, all these prices going up, right? But I just said, man, I don't want to get married, being broke. Or I don't want to have kids being broke. I don't know I don't know if I'll be able to take care of my kids, and then being on child support, and then risking being on child support, various reasons here in the West. The point is, guys can wait till later. A guy can wait till he's 40. I mean, I've seen, what was it? There was a celebrity. I forgot the name of the celebrity, but there was this actor who was like 80 years old, and he got this 30-year-old actress pregnant. I forgot who it was. I forgot the name. Damn it! I wish I could. I'll look it up later, but I forgot the name. 80-year-old guy gets 30-year-old woman pregnant. So even if you're 70, 80 years old, you can still get women pregnant. You can still get women pregnant. Think about that. I want you to think about that. And that's why it's okay as a man to wait. I mean, if you read the Bible, there's been like many men. I think Abraham, he was Abraham had his children when he was like an old man. He was like, I think, over 70 years old, I think. He was an old guy. And he had his first child when he was like really old, But yeah, us guys, we can wait till very late. Now, I'm not saying that you should do that. If you can have them when you're younger, definitely. But it's not the same for girls. Girls cannot wait till they're 40, 50 years old to have kids. It gets harder and harder, And yeah, we got to stop pretending. We got to stop pretending, and we have to communicate this to to this generation of women, right? But anyways, let's keep going.
天呐，家人们又
Oh my god, everyone, another older leftover woman regrets it. The day before yesterday, a beautiful woman born in 1988 came here. After registering, she talked to me at length and said that when she was younger, her family introduced her to many excellent men. At the time, because her standards were too perfect, she always believed that someone even better would come along later. And little by little, she ended up letting time pass. Now, the men she can meet are far worse than before. Those truly outstanding men got married long ago. The ones who are still unmarried aren't interested in her, so she has remained single all this time. And indeed, she regrets it.
The blogger said that after the breakup, he shut himself inside his rented apartment and didn't dare go out to see anyone. 2 whole months passed, and when he saw that his bank account had dropped to just 3 digits, he suddenly panicked. When he looked at himself in the mirror in the morning, he was startled by his own reflection. In the past, when he stayed up all night at work revising proposals, he would still put on a full face of makeup. Now, he doesn't even wash his hair, he just lies in bed all day. Thinking about how his friends, one after another, had all gotten married while he was still single, he sighed and wondered, when will this kind of life ever end? Many men believe that older women have already passed their prime childbearing years, but this female blogger believes that marrying an older woman also has its advantages. First of all, older women generally tend to be in a better financial position.
Well, it doesn't really matter if she's older and in a better financial position, because ultimately, women don't really share their finances with men. It's men that share their finances with women. If a woman is 30, 40 years old and she's making $100,000 a year, she doesn't need anybody. She doesn't need a man, right? And if she has a boyfriend or something like that, she's still going to depend on him. She's not gonna share her money, her wealth with him. It's always been that way. It's always been that way. Okay, this is why men don't really care about how successful a woman is. Okay, they don't really care. Okay, men don't really care how successful a woman is, because they know, oh, what am I gonna do? Ask her for money? I'm not gonna ask her for money. And also, it's also, I guess, like a prideful thing. Like, if you're a man, you're the one that's supposed to be the provider. So asking her for money is kind of shameful. It's kind of, it's a bit embarrassing. It's almost like asking your mom for money, in a way. Kind of. That's kind of how it feels. Kind of how it feels. I mean, if you're a guy, leave a comment below and tell me. But, um, that's why guys don't really care how much money a woman has. And this is why this dating strategy doesn't work for girls, is because the woman that goes to college and gets a 6-figure job, and she's like 30, 40 years old wondering why she's single, is because men don't really care about successful women. That's not what they're looking for. And again, you can argue with me all you want, but this is the way that God created it. Is the way that God created it. Men are supposed to be the providers, so we don't care if women make money. We are the ones that try to do these things, right? Um, so, and you know what's funny? You know what's funny? I also find it very, very strange that these ladies cannot figure it out. How have you not figured out? Because you were able to go to college, get a corporate job, make a 6-figure income, and then you cannot figure out why men don't want you, right? You can't figure out why men don't want you. I think they know, but it's more like they don't want to acknowledge it, or they don't want to think about it. It's one of those things.
The director commented, "He is already 30 years old and has never been in a relationship. Many people have started urging him. Some say he shouldn't set his standards too high, that he should first try dating and experience it, because life with 2 people is definitely better than being alone. This made him feel that never having been in a relationship is something abnormal. Actually, I've already prepared myself to stay single for the rest of my life, because I have this feeling. Think about it. If I couldn't find it in the past 10+ years, how could I possibly find it so easily within just 5 years? Besides, I don't plan to rely on blind dates or those kinds of fast, rushed matching methods. I still hope for something that develops naturally. That feeling of falling in love, That moment when your heart starts to race.
When we put all these testimonies side by side, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. No one here seems truly happy, yet everyone seems to be trying to prove that they made the right choices. Some say they don't want a bride price, others offer one. Some say they don't care about a car or a house, while others list everything they don't want until they suddenly realize that maybe they should have wanted a little less or a little more. It's interesting how the narrative changes as time goes by. When they were younger, many believed there would always be someone better waiting just around the corner. The logic was simple: I won't settle now because something better will come later. But later arrived, bringing silence, family pressure, awkward dates, and the feeling that the market closed before there was time to decide. And suddenly, what once felt like a choice turns into a lack of options, and no one likes to admit that. At the same time, it becomes clear that the problem isn't just men or women, it's the entire game. A system that turned relationships into spreadsheets, people into requirements, and feelings into optional bonuses. A game where love must come with income, assets, minimum height, maximum age, and preferably no visible human flaws.
No visible human flaws. Is, in other words, just benefits. Benefits. Benefits, benefits, benefits. And this is one of the reasons why I think once female robots are created, it is game over. It is going to be game over. Once these female robots are like efficient, where they're able to like walk and talk, and have all this logic, there's gonna be so many dudes just getting a female robot, and that's it. Because this is the age that we're living in. This is the age that we're living in. It's like, no, the people don't want anybody that has some flaws, and that's impossible. That's impossible. You know, you can't get somebody that has no flaws. That's unrealistic. It's like we have become so materialistic. It's kind of depressing, honestly. It's kind of depressing, and this is why AI is taking over. This is why robots are gonna take over, and they're gonna bring in the female robots, and that's when humanity is really gonna go down the drain, bro. That's when humanity is really, really, really gonna go down the drain. Because with female robots, people are not gonna reproduce. And as far as reproduction, I'm sure you guys heard about it. The artificial womb. A lot of these corporations, governors, they have these artificial wombs, right? These artificial wombs where they're going to be growing humans in these things, in these machines. So they're not even gonna need females anymore. That's scary. I mean, if you're a woman, and you're watching this video and you know this about the artificial womb, isn't that insulting to you? I imagine, isn't that insulting to you as a female? That these leaders, like the Elon Musk of the world and the Bill Gates of the world, they're creating an artificial womb so they can grow humans in them and not need females. That they're creating these things to not need you. Think about it. You know how evil that is? How evil that is? That they're doing this so that they won't need you, the woman, the female. That's crazy. That is freaking inhuman to me.
A game in which everyone tries to protect their own emotional capital, yet ends up poorer than when they started. And the greatest irony is this: the more people talk about independence, freedom, and choice, the more people end up alone, not by conscious decision, but by exhaustion. Tired of negotiating, tired of compromising, tired of competing. Some give up and say being alone is better. Others say they still believe in natural love, but are already prepared for the worst. Deep down, it's less about romance and more about emotional self-defense. Perhaps the true portrait of this generation isn't one of people who are too demanding, nor of people who failed at love. Perhaps it's the portrait of a generation taught to optimize everything, including feelings, and now doesn't quite know how to deal with life when it refuses to follow a logical algorithm. Because love isn't an automatic upgrade, it doesn't follow a growth curve, and it doesn't guarantee a return on investment. In the end, no one really won this game. Some married early and now ask themselves, what if? Others waited too long and now ask, what now? And many keep trying to convince themselves that they're exactly where they're supposed to be. Maybe they are, Or maybe they're just trying to emotionally survive a game that promised too much and delivered far less.
And that there is another problem is that we're playing too many games, man. We're playing too many games. You know, we're going to extinct ourselves at this point. You know, humans are going to go extinct by themselves for not reproducing. Man, you know, sometimes, you know, I don't blame people for losing hope on humanity, but I still encourage people to try. You know, for example, Western civilization is going down. United States is going down. And I mean, we can still have some ideas from America that are positive, you know, and take all our belongings and go somewhere else and not bring that same culture over. Like if you're an American and you're moving to the Philippines, please do not bring that liberal mentality to the Philippines. You know, the Philippines does not need it. The Philippines does not need it. We need people that want to reproduce, that want to build families. That's what we need. We don't need people, these liberal people that think, oh well, we don't need family. You know, we don't need to get married and bringing all these DEI freaking ideas or abroad. You know, I've seen people that you know, like some people in California that bring this California liberal mentality over to places like Japan, and they try to spread it over there. Like, bro, like, how are you gonna or a lot of people just really don't see it. They don't see that these ideas from like liberal California, they ruined the country, they ruined the society, and that's how we ended up here. And then they want to bring those same ideas that they think are good. They think are good. They want to bring those ideas to other countries, right? And then are surprised when other places start to fall down. You know, so we gotta go back to being more traditional. Really, we gotta go back to being more traditional. We gotta follow God again. We gotta follow Jesus Christ again. We gotta bring back a lot of these ideas because otherwise society is gonna collapse even faster and faster. You know, we're being replaced by artificial wombs, artificial intelligence, robots, artificial everything. Eventually, the world leaders they're just gonna have like artificial everything and not need people. But hey, whatever your thoughts are, make sure to comment below, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for future notifications. Guys, it's your boy and the Matrix. Godspeed, baby.